Talk. I can't remember how it started, but there must have been a deadline. Um, there must have been something that meant I had to cut corners. It was just a one-time start off with, but before you knew it, I was doing it more and more. And once you once you start, it's really hard to stop. It's really hard. I confess, I use 3D models in my work. But in my defense, I just build the models and I render out simple forms. I don't put textures on them. I don't put filters on them. I'm not a monster. I'll tell you how I do it. Here's one I've made earlier. This is a set I've built for Space Crash issue 4. I needed a sort of an area, a bit like a hangar with a large collection of enemy fighters in there. So I built this model. Very simple model. Uh, some some lighting in there. We'll talk about that in a second. But first, let's have a look at the camera view that I got. First, the camera view that I've got. And what I've done is in my original pencils, I sort of roughed out the panel size. So I knew how big my panel had to be. It also meant I knew what the proportions had to be. So when I make my render, I make my render to those proportions. I can see the resolution gate here. This bit's grayed out. So this is what you see, and the proportions are set. So you should be able to just drop this onto a page and it'll be proportionally correct. Positionally, you'll have to move it around the page. So in terms of lighting and textures and all that sort of stuff, there's no textures. There's a bit of color on some of them, but there's nothing special. This is a very simple model. I'm more concerned with form than I am about having fancy textures. So I'm more concerned about seeing where the planes for this engine is, or for this side of the fighter, or this part of the hangar. So how is it all built? It's built very simply, of lots of repeated sections. So the hangar is built out of these repeated sections here. They just butt up to each other and they give you the sort of effect of a much larger room. You haven't got to build a large room, you just got to build a component. And then each each fighter has its own sort of parent you can move around, and they're just linked together. So there we go. And these things are really built very simply using just a cube. This is a cube, and I welded the two verts at the bottom to make the triangle cross section. Pulled the face out to make the length I was happy with. Boolean extracted out a little cylinder here. That's just a cylinder with some faces deleted. These are boxes that have just been scaled in so that they're thin. They've got two or three heights. They've got two height segments and allows us to shape them. It's literally just a cylinder, and a box that's been adjusted ever so slightly. As I say, they're all linked under. They're all linked under a main parent, so you can move the whole lot. It means you can rotate them into greater positions, isolate them. So look at this particular one, isolation. We can look at all kinds of crazy angles for it. Once we've got our renders done, we put the page together in Photoshop. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop. This is the image that's been sized to fit onto a Space Crash page, and I just literally print that out to grayscale, and I lightbox that to give me I like box that, and it gives me sort of a good perspective grid to sort of build on. I'll add some foreground elements, I'll add some background elements that aren't in the model. and you get a half decent looking um, environment, and that's handy if you have a scene that's very tricky, like say this scene. Okay, here's a difficult scene. It's sort of a secure vault with sort of laser beams and the fancy gem on a little pedestal, and it's a very high ceiling. A person sort of stands probably about that tall, so it's actually quite high, uh, and that causes problems if you want to try and get, say, this part and someone in focus on the in the foreground. So on my page, I did some rough pencil layouts of what I want the angles to look like, and I've roughly aligned the cameras to match those angles, and I've made screenshots for this page. So let's have a look at those. And here's the page. We're sort of changing our camera angle to sort of show more and more of the room. We're seeing the lasers, we're seeing the diamond, we're seeing the top there where there's an air vent. I have not drawn that in, I've just suggested it. And this will form the basis of a page on Space Crash. So there's still work for me to do. I still have to do things. This isn't just a case of me making a rendering or putting a filter on something and there's my background. This is me um, building a set and composing shots, almost like you would a film. So, my friends, that's my confession. Seriously, it's not that bad. Look, 3D models are ultimately just they're a tool. They're a mechanism to use it. It's like having a reference. It's like having a photo reference. It's like having a model that you pose. Like you've got a little action figure, you pose it on your desk. It's a way to see what the shot can look like. It's a way to scout for new angles. I think I draw the line at just making a render look like a comic page. I want my comic page to look like my comic page. So I'm not sticking filters on anything. I'm not just grabbing a city skyline and putting an outline filter on it and saying that's my background. And it's not every page. It's certain shots. If I've got a difficult set, it's very tall, very big, or there's a very specific geometry or geography of the scene, then it's useful to have a 3D model so you can see what's what. And it can be a 3D model like it can be a 3D model like a computer model, or it can just literally be a model made of card. And you take photos of it to get a reference, to get an idea of what the perspective is like. And sometimes all you're wanting is something that you can put some grids on to make a 2-point or 3-point perspective. And I think sometimes artists get a bit too hung up on where their source comes from. So if you're using 3D models, it's cool. Don't worry about it. You do you, and it's going to be great. So yeah, right. So that's the episode. So join me next week. Not sure exactly what we're doing yet, but we might look at some illustration work. I've got a commission to do, and we can probably document a bit of it in there. So join me next time. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Okay, see you later. Bye now.